Welcome to Fashion Neurosis, Colm Tóibín.
Thank you.
Can you tell me what you're wearing today and why you chose these particular clothes?
The shoes are called Allbirds. And I was at a conference on Proust at Columbia, and the two cleverest people I knew there were wearing the same sort of shoes. One was Lydia Davis and the other was Anne Carson. And they're both about the same age as I am. And they just looked tremendous. And I think they spoke beautifully. And they were very confident. And they were both wearing sort of men's jackets and these shoes. And I wanted to be them, Anne Carson and Lydia Davis. I mean, more than anybody. And I asked them, I couldn't ask them, what shoes are you wearing? Because I thought it would be, considered sort of, oh God, after all I've said about Proust, it's all you can ask me. But I asked somebody who I thought knew about these things, please come and look at their shoes. And they told me they were wearing Allbirds. And so I immediately applied for Allbirds online. I think they're size 9. And they came. So I wear Allbirds all the time now because they just are very comfortable. Socks, in Terminal 5 in JFK, which used to be the Aer Lingus terminal. It's not now because JetBlue gets bigger. It's a JetBlue terminal. It used to have a Muji shop. Oh. And every time I went there, I bought loads of socks in Muji. But it's closed now. And I've never found a Muji that, the same. But anyway, they're from Muji. In Paris, there's a man who's in the news at the moment. He's called Olivier Noah. And he was the head of Grasset, which is my publisher. And recently, he's had to resign, or he's been fired by an awful fellow who's owns Hachette.
Oh yeah.
And he did something appalling. I mean, he wanted Olivier to publish the most dreadful book by a most dreadful man, and there was a big row. And of course, Olivier wouldn't do it. And but I have a wonderful editor called Joachim Schnurf, and Joachim and myself would go and see Olivier in his big office because he was a big boss and but I know I should have been listening to Olivier talking about publishing, but I was looking at his jacket, and I didn't really know. Again, I didn't know what to do. I mean, you can't really ask people who are known for their intelligence where they got their jackets, but I asked Joachim if he could very, cautiously, perhaps politely ask Olivier. And he told me the name of the company in Paris. And I immediately went there because I wanted to have this sort of, I was going to say suave authority, but just very, very kind man. And he's very intelligent, and he's who I want to be, really. And so I went immediately to that shop in Paris. And I immediately bought this. I bought another jacket and a pair of trousers. And then when I went back again to Paris recently, I bought a second one. It's red inside.
Oh yeah,
which
really
may be
nice.
my inner cardinal. And the trousers are the same. So I feel that I carry with me as I wander around some of the moral authority and sort of general, let's say, understated talent of people, of Olivier Noah, of Lydia Davis, and of Anne Carson. And then the shirt, I'm sort of all the wrong shape, so my shirt is XXL. I mean, it couldn't be bigger, from Adolfo Dominguez in Barcelona. But then I discovered online they had better shirts. And so I ordered a whole lot of them, a big load of them. And it's a sort of dress shirt, but if you wear it during the day, you feel better, I think. So that's what I'm wearing.
Yeah, I noticed it had a hidden
look, it's really cool
thing. Yeah,
and it looks as though you're going to some major party.
It's great.
But I'm just going, I'm not.
It's got a kind of fashion, like an Anne de Meulemeister sort of minimalist.
Yeah, and this jacket is good. I've been teaching with it all semester. So you go in and eventually you take it off because it's too hot in the room. But the fact that it's red inside, And it's very nice because it has a little yellow hook or a little, thing you can hang it up. And whoever designed it thought, well, black and red, and then you need a little bit of yellow.
It's good.
Oh, it's got big pockets. You can put books in them and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I remember Ozzie Clarke saying, if you're going to do a pocket, it needs to fit a dozen eggs in. Don't really know why, but I sort of got what he was aiming for about
that's pretty good
proportion and scale.
A dozen
is
eggs.
Everything. And you're an Irish writer and the author of 11 novels and numerous essays and volumes of short stories. And as well as the multitude of awards you've received, you've been nominated 3 times for the Booker Prize. And the film of your book, Brooklyn, won an Oscar. And I was given Brooklyn when it came out, and you became and you remain my favourite living writer. And I've heard many writers say they hate the actual writing, even though they're compelled to write. And I wondered if you ever hate writing.
Oh, no, it's too strong a word, hate. I get lazy and I prefer to do something else. But you have to settle down to it and do it. And it's always easy to stop. I'll stop at this page. Because I write in longhand. I just could stop in this page, but then you can't do that. So you've got to say, I'm going to go on. I mean, just go on writing. It's not like Beckett, I can't go on, I must go on. It's nothing like that. It's just work. It's like writing an essay for school. You often have to do more than you want to. But hate is too strong, and struggle, all those words are too strong.
Yeah. So my ex-husband is a writer, and I once was saying something about you're doing the thing you love, and he said, but I hate it. And I was really shocked.
Yeah,
and
but
he's
I think
a brilliant writer.
I think that hate thing is just too strong.
Yeah.
I think writers talk a lot of rubbish about writing. Maybe because it's so hard to talk the truth. It's so hard to work out what it is that you invent all these. People say I write for myself. Well, in that case, don't write then, because why don't you just it's a form of communication no matter what you do. And there's a sort of also a feeling that if you didn't do it, it would be an awful waste to have all that. I'm not sure even talent is the word, but have all those skills and impulses and not act on them.
Yeah.
It would be appalling, I think.
It would be appalling. Because I met you through a mutual friend of ours, Mari Donnelly, and she wears the most exquisite clothes, and so does her husband, Joe, actually. And I think she's around 70, and she looks like a schoolgirl who's raided the Comme des Garçons section in Dover Street Market, and she's a great reader.
Yeah, and she's a really great reader.
She's a marvellous reader.
She's also got tremendously good taste.
Oh, my God.
Really exquisite taste. And everything she wears and everything she does, really, she's great.
Because do you find you're attracted to people who wear clothes in a beautiful way?
Yeah, but I also just have old friends, and I would never notice what they're wearing. So, but with her, there's a really great style, which, I'm really interested in.
Because she told me that she'd gifted you a handmade shirt from Charvet for your birthday.
Oh, yes, there was great drama. I eventually went to Paris and went to the fitting. And, they put pins all over the material, and a woman came in, a man came in, I stood there, and it's very exciting. And what's great about those Charvet shirts is they're so plain. They don't look like much. I think you could probably wear one in Ireland and no one would know what it was. But I haven't picked it up yet. I have to go for a fitting, and I was going to go in the autumn, but the problem is the whole Grasset problem, because I wouldn't sign a contract with Grasset now because of their appalling behavior. And my friends who are the editors are, it's unclear what's going to happen. So I'm going to have to keep postponing this Charvet fitting. And but it's tremendously exciting because the Irish Prime Minister of years back, he was famous for getting Charvet shirts. But
really? Yeah, my son Jimmy's godfather is Christian Louboutin, and he gave him for his 10th birthday or something some some bow ties from Charvet, which are absolutely amazing.
Oh, I haven't thought of when I go finally for the final buy, which I don't know what's going to be like. I'm going to have to ask them what else they have. But I went downstairs. There's a word in English called bolt, B-O-L-T. The bolts of material. I mean,
Yes.
bolts and bolts. Like I've never seen anything like it. And it's not as though they're all silk or they're all linen or something. They're just basically cotton shirts. And yeah, eventually I'm going to have to come clean and just take one home. Really.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you remember a piece of clothing that, growing up, that seemed to bestow magical qualities on somebody?
No, I never had any clothes I liked. And I remember seeing things I liked, like someone had a beautiful grey suit. But no, I never had anything I liked, I don't think.
Was there anything that you longed for or that you knew about?
You see, it was really, what was very fashionable then were polo necks. I don't know, I think they came in sometime in the 60s. Not really, the older generation wouldn't wear a polo neck. You know, the funniest thing that I ever owned, and I wish I had it again, was not only a string vest, but a string underpants.
Oh my God.
And that was very fashionable in Ireland for men to wear a string vest. I remember getting a slight suntan through a string vest. But a string underpants was really something. And you never see them anymore.
I've never seen in my whole life string underpants.
Yeah. For the serious part of your, I suppose, underpart, it wasn't string.
Yeah.
But it was, but and all the surround was all string. And a lot of people had string underpants in Enniscorthy. I would see circa 1967, 68, 69. And but also the other thing was a cravat. They were also very fashionable for a while. All those things were awful. So absolutely never anything nice.
Because you come from an intellectual and political family, and
I wouldn't put it like that. But my father, the ruling party in Ireland, really throughout the independence period, has been a party called Fianna Fáil, and there's still the prime minister now is from that party, and it came into power in 1932, and my father was director of elections from that party for the minister, who was the Minister for Health and then the Minister for Finance. And so my first election that I worked on was 1964 when I was 9.
Wow.
Basically folding things and putting them into envelopes. But I followed the election that night on television very closely. I was very pleased when our party got reappointed. And I worked on the 69 election, which was meant to be, the big slogan for the Labour Party was the 70s will be socialist. But actually we won, Fianna Fáil won. I mean, not that we ever did anything useful. I mean, and once I went to university, I was so ashamed, of having worked for Fianna Fáil in the 69 election. I have a sneaking regard for the party, but not for its policies.
Yeah.
But intellectual, my mother read poetry and cared a lot about poetry, but no one would use the word intellectual.
Right.
Intellectuals were in Paris.
But I saw a photograph of you, age 16, where you looked like a poet rock star. And I wondered, were you enthralled by your appearance when you looked in the mirror, or were you imprisoned by self-criticalness?
Oh, I've never thought of that. I liked how I looked. Yeah, I did. But I never put that much thought into it. I grew a beard as soon as I went to university. So I looked much older than I was. That I didn't shave the beard off for years. I had terrible teeth. I don't know. There was a funny thing happened in university where there was one lecturer, and no matter where I ever was, in any way near him, he always stared at me obsessively. And if I was walking along a corridor and he was walking on the other way, he would just stare at me. I found that very exciting. I liked that a lot.
It's great that because that photo, you look so glamorous and so beautiful, but it's not often that anyone. I mean, I never liked my appearance. I just could only see everything wrong, and it took me till I was about 50 to start appreciating myself. And so it's always good. I think it's great when anyone has, however, any moment of liking themselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because your father died when you were 12.
Yeah. And I think I had, I think someone said it was unusual that my eyes were a completely different color to either of my parents. My mother's eyes were sort of gray and my father's were blue, but mine were completely different. You know, I did really feel, it was a joke at the beginning, that I was on my way to Buckingham Palace. And I got dropped in Enniscorthy by accident, and I would just have to put up with it. And it would, it would occur, there was a sort of grandeur. I liked things that were nice. And I was ashamed of our car, which was a Morris Minor. I wanted us to get a bigger car. And my mother would just say, well, there you are again. It was such a mistake.
That's so fun.
Years later, I told her that was in Freud. And she said, it was that good or bad? And I said, it's always bad. It's always neurosis. If it's always wrong. If your parents say that to you and you grow up thinking that you really were destined for elsewhere. And also, my mother had never, the concept of an unruly teenager did not exist. There was nothing about it in the newspapers. So when I began to just, the worst moments, the really shameful moment, and if my mother were here now, she'd say, I know what it is. That after my father died, one of the summers, it must have been 2 summers after he died, my mother decided we needed to go to County Kerry to look at the landscape and maybe learn Irish. And there's a famous building in the West Kerry called the Glamour Oratory. I think it's from the 6th century or the 7th. It's very, very early. And it's like a beehive. And it's terribly important. And when they were all, my sisters and my mother and my brother were getting out of the car to study it, I just said I was going to stay in the car if that was all right with them. And I mean, they shouldn't have let me. They should have said, you're getting out now of the car. Drag me out of the car. But they just said, okay, if you want to stay in the car, that's fine. But anytime after that I ever mentioned some building I liked or they would say, Glamour Oratory. You wouldn't even get out of the car. And I went back there, some years ago, almost penitentially. Yes. For what an appalling thing to do. But I didn't look like any of the others. And and then someone somewhere said that they thought I was an Italian. Notice Italian. He looks like an Italian. I sort of loved looking like an Italian.
Yeah, God. Because I was going to ask you about before your father died and he had an aneurysm, your mother sent you to stay with your younger brother at an aunt's house and you didn't hear from her for 3 months. And it's odd how being left alone is almost the worst thing ever, because my mother left me for 3 months and you described it as a psychic wound. And you say you return to the theme of abandonment almost without intending. And do you go to a strict place to regulate yourself when you think about this?
There was a moment years later when we were driving down to Wexford and the road was blocked, the main road. And we went around another way, myself and my brother. I'm driving, he's in the passenger seat. And it means we have to pass by this house where we were for those months. And we do. And neither of us speaks. We just don't speak. Because it was probably worse for him because he was 4. And I think it damaged both of us a lot. and we never knew what to say about it. And it was slightly embarrassing later because I wrote a novel which had that in the novel.
Is that Nora Webster?
No, Nora Webster was written after my mother died.
Oh, right.
But there were novels before that, which the very first novel I wrote, called The South, has, a mother abandoning her daughter, who in turn abandons her son.
God.
So it's pure abandonment.
Yeah.
And, you don't write that for no reason. But there were posh Protestants, those people. Now, so my mother she didn't notice it. But I suppose in the next one more, and the next one maybe more and more. But that became, no matter what I did, the subject. And you see, the problem was, I suppose, that, my aunt, my mother's sister, she was very nice, and it wasn't as though anyone did anything to us. But I mean, for her point of view, having these two very entitled boys foisted on her when she had her own children who were younger. So she didn't know what to do with the two of us, because we ran our own lives by that. We were the youngest, and so we were so used to deciding our own bedtime and deciding what clothes we wore and deciding to do what we wanted.
It's so odd, the never mentioning it, because my mother never mentioned it either.
Did she not?
No, and we talked about other things, not very successfully, but that I never felt I could bring it up because it was so awful and it was undeniable. And
it's so accusatory. And so why didn't you? And there's no answer to that.
Yeah. Because you've talked about growing up surrounded by women and saying they were interesting in a way that men weren't. And you tell this hilarious story about listening to your mother and sister discussing their Aunt Harriet having bought a new coat and the material and the exact shade of green, and then you sneak out of the house age 5 or 6 and go next door and tell Mrs. Hayton the whole story of the coat, but you make it a fur coat. Yeah. And this, I just cried with laughter when I read that.
My mother's two young, especially Harriet, the youngest, really cared about clothes. She was very good looking, and she really, really watched what she wore. It was always beautiful. And she went to sales, and the other sister went to sales, and they loved sales. And she told a wonderful story, Harriet. There's a shop in Wexford town, still there, called Shaw's. And one day she had an hour or two to kill. So she went into Shaw's and pretended she was going to a wedding, and got the woman to show her an entire rig out and all the accessories and what exactly she should be wearing with him. And she had no intention of buying anything. And she said the woman followed her out into the street, said, "Don't ever come back into this shop."
No.
She'd been completely fooled into thinking this woman was ready to buy an enormous amount. And Harriet got married in Rome. She was in her 40s, and she didn't want to get married in the cathedral. It was too public. But she bought a most beautiful white dress, and it was 1968, I think, which meant that it was just slightly above her knee, which no one would do now. It was obviously the time, but I remember she had it made, and there was a great deal of discussion about it, and she had to have it all, put into lovely paper, and, before it was packed, where she went off to Rome to get married.
So it was such a good point, the upping the ante about turning it into a fur coat. And I wondered if have you ever interviewed a fashion designer? I'd love to hear you talk to someone like Rick Owens, because the way he's quite avant-garde, and I think your line of questions, you would produce something.
Oh, I've never done that. No.
Because I read also that you choose not to include any overt descriptions of your characters' appearances. And you said if you describe them physically, you actually remove them from the reader. You distance them.
Yeah, that the reader has to sort of, if you describe someone as small or tall or grey hair, that you've got to be careful not to overdo that. Because also, no matter what you do, the reader fails to imagine. You could say someone had full lips and a slightly pointed nose, and dark eyes and thick eyebrows. But it wouldn't really give you a face. It would just give you a description of a face. So that's the opposite of what writing should be. And it's no use.
God, it's so interesting. I'd never occurred to me that. I mean, I've read lots of your books and I feel very engaged with each character, and but I feel them. I suppose you need to feel someone rather than picture them.
Yes, and also get a sense of their affect.
Yeah.
Of what it means for them to come into a room.
Yeah.
And describing someone's, even their posture. I've never been convinced by it.
Because in Nora Webster, which is one of my favourite of your books, you write about her having her hair dyed for the first time and how self-conscious she feels, and how it was such a radical move on her part, and it all seemed to go wrong. And my grandmother was Irish, and it seemed like these misdemeanors around thinking sort of more of yourself were fraught. Why was that?
Well, I suppose that my mother was a widow, and there was always that sense of how should a widow dress?
Right.
And there was a very big moment. The big thing that came in those years was the sheepskin coat. And I think they were much more expensive than ordinary coats. But eventually my mother did have a sheepskin coat. But the business of hair and how you dyed it. See, women just didn't want to go grey anymore. There were some women who did, who prided themselves on just being utterly grey. But then if you were very posh, you did blue. Literally blue hair. See, you don't see it at all now, I think. And but then women just went into his place and just got black. But black went out because you could see the grey roots. And what came in was a sort of auburn or a sort of gold. And eventually my mother's hair got slightly gold. But the first dye was a kind of blue.
Like Quentin Crisp.
Yeah. And, but I mean, women were very coy about it. One aunt denied it completely, said she never dyed her hair. She just was very lucky. Her hair had stayed that colour all her life.
Yeah, my grandmother had pitch black hair, and then I think she had a wig, but I never realised that until my mother told me.
Really?
Yeah.
Your Irish grandmother?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Me and my sister always wanted to have a black curly hair like her, but...
Yeah. Your other grandmother sounds like a item.
I only met her twice, my father's mother, when her husband died, when my grandfather died, who I'd never met. She tried to commit suicide and was rescued and became very, very quiet and passive, and he started to paint her then.
Yeah, there's a wonderful painting where he paints her with her hands like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I found that very interesting, as to how you think about your mother. And it's very tender. And you see her very vulnerable. I thought that was a really good painting.
Yeah, I love that painting. Yeah. And she was wearing a paisley top, and I remember him painting the paisleys on. And yeah. Because your younger brother died suddenly and unexpectedly.
Yeah, both of my brothers died. But my younger one was I've never, you never, I don't know what should happen. But there's nothing you can do to bring him back. And he died on a Saturday night. And sometimes it hits me harder on a Saturday night. When it's coming to Saturday night, it comes into my mind.
Yeah.
And, it's about, it's in Henry James where he says about, I think it's Millie Thiel in The Wings of the Dove. She would have given anything to have lived.
Gosh, yeah.
And he had bought a house in South Wexford. And it was, honestly, the big debates we have take up so much time. I was arguing that he needed to take out ceilings and make a big high room, a big high living room. And then he could have a bedroom upstairs, you know, and a kitchen downstairs. But and they would be, both of them, equal to the size, to the height of the one room. And that room would be really lovely. And I also wanted him to put a toilet under the stairs.
Yes.
And we were discussing this. And then he met someone who said a cottage should be a cottage and not have double height rooms. And I was dead against her, and I was arguing no. Yeah. And a lot of friends of his had summer houses in that area. So it's going to be great. And it was lovely, I suppose. And then when he died, we just had to sell the thing before any work had been done on it. And but it was, it's funny the things you distract yourself with.
Because in your short story, Sleep, you describe your character in a state of deep, unexpressed grief being forced by a man that he's seeing to get help. But he says that you have to get Irish help. And in the story, you're hypnotized and you become your brother. And it sounds a bit like an acid trip. And did that actually happen?
Yeah, some of it's invented in that I had been with this younger guy in New York much earlier, and it wasn't as though he sent me back. But I did feel that I needed help myself.
Yeah.
And I was close to a man called Ivor Brown, who was a psychiatrist. I had worked with his wife, who was a journalist, and I'd been her editor. And I went out to their house a few times to oversee something she was doing. And this very tall, very beautiful man would just keep looking at me. And it was Ivor. And June would say, his wife would say, Ivor, stop looking at Colm. Because he was looking at me. And he saw something. He really did. Early on, and said, there's something wrong with you. You do need to see me. I said, Ivor, leave me alone. And he would just, no matter what was going on, including a party or a very noisy dinner, he would look at me and say, when did your father die? Tell me that again. And I said, Ivor, just eat your dinner. And but he did lure me eventually into some sort of treatment. So I went back to him saying, the last time I avoided you, and but eventually you trapped me, but this time I need you. And I went to the house. It was a big, long room in Dublin I was familiar with from social events. He hypnotized me. And everything in the story about the hypnosis is what I remember.
Gosh.
There's nothing made up in it. You see, you can't falsify that. I think that, I know fiction is fiction and there are no rules, you can make things up. But for me to write that down, it was so personal and so important that I wrote down exactly what happened. And he didn't understand it. Even when he didn't want to hear about it, actually. He said, it's yours, you take it. It's not something, I thought it was going to be the beginning of talk therapy. That from that we were going to begin. But he said, no, it's just something you need to know. And he never really knew what happened. And what happened was that in the hypnosis, you see, we were brothers, and he was 4 and I was 8 when we spent that time together. But I mean, in other words, the two of us were always put together. And so I went into his spirit as he was dying. God. And I mean, it's a very hard thing to talk about in a way.
Yeah.
So writing about it, you have full control over it, just trying to describe it in detail, so that at least it's. I felt it was important. I wrote it down and published it.
Yeah, no, it seems an extraordinary thing to be able to describe and to have an experience.
Yeah,
because other people must have had similar things, and
but also must have that in them.
Yeah,
even if they didn't do the the hypnosis, that potentially they're going around where that had actually happened to them, without them knowing, you know?
Yeah. It's really hard to know where to place grief. And
Yeah. Yeah.
do you think there's a kind of Irish deep suffering that's transgenerational?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that for some reason, it's very hard to deal with death. Even you think, surely in a country that's Catholic or, you know, but I know no one in Ireland who managed to deal with the death of their parents as though it was some sort of natural, inevitable thing of like the seasons changing, like the day becoming night. You know, I know no one who dealt with that. And,
Really?
at the moment, I'm editing a magazine called Poetry Ireland. You know, it falls to one person to edit it, and it fell to me. And I think I'm reading 1,000 poems, and I've probably read hundreds of them by Irish poets, and so many of them are elegies for the parents.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I can't think of a historical reason as much as that it is as though maybe the rituals surrounding death that made it easier in some way were never actually real.
Yeah.
Were things people talked about. I mean, talking about the wake or, you know, the idea of the dead body. But I wonder if none of that was true. If people were just devastated.
Yeah.
I mean, devastated by death. And it's a curious thing because people would presume Irish people had a better way of dealing with death, but it's not true.
Yeah, because that's the sort of folklore almost, isn't it? But
yeah,
there seems so much trapped sadness.
yeah, yeah.
I read that your boyfriend Hedy was playing the Pet Shop Boys recently and brought back all these bad memories from the 80s because you were always thought you were wearing the wrong clothes and said that the gay world is terribly judgmental.
He's fed up with me talking about the Pet Shop Boys because his taste in music is actually very serious and sophisticated, and the Pet Shop Boys is just all I've taken from. He said he never listens to the Pet Shop Boys, but I said, well, in the loop music in the car, there's a song called "We Were Never Boring," and we were never boring, and but yeah, I was never good at gay culture. I even use the word ironically, really. You know, I never really took to the music. I never took to the drugs. And yeah, I was always wearing the wrong clothes. I remember going to Heaven once, the disco in London, and realizing I was completely out of place in there.
What were your sartorial
Oh,
faux
just
pas?
stupid clothes. You know, like I wouldn't wear jeans. I was wearing probably cavalry trills or some rubbish I'd bought. But whatever it was, I certainly didn't feel. I mean, my only interest in going into somewhere like that was to find a nice English boy and go home with him. You know? Like I never was interested in staying the night and doing. And I forgot to say I can't dance. My father couldn't either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you know he couldn't?
Because it was a big myth at home. Seemingly someone said to him, he said to someone that he had in his head, meaning brains, what they had in their feet. It doesn't sound like him because he wasn't sort of arrogant like that, but he did say that to someone. And I would even know by thinking about him now that he couldn't dance. Then I remember friend said to me, I mean, a good friend, she could get away with saying it. You know, people who can't dance can't fuck. Do you know that?
Oh, God, that's
And
so
I'm
mean.
sure that's not true. She said it is. Everyone knows it. I thought that was great.
I'd like to believe that, but I don't think it is true.
No, it isn't true, but it's a lovely thing to say. It just sounds so great. Especially she was a marvelous dancer herself.
I bet she was. She'd never say it if she wasn't. Because you described playing tennis with the film director Pedro Almodovar, and you said He's like a wall. He simply returns the ball very hard. He always hits it, and it's absolutely without style. It's fascinating because it goes against the idea of him. And I wondered what things you notice about a man's style, and is there something that always perks up your eye?
I was interested in Almodovar because he could very quickly become the director of his films. Even his, for Vanity Fair, I went down. It's the only time I've really written about that sort of design and things, just looking at his house that he had in the countryside in Spain, that he went to at the weekends, and his nephews came and his brother came, and it was just filled with those colours we see in his films. But the person himself, I became interested in him because I saw an element of myself in him, in that he was quite dull in some ways, and that he writes his own scripts.
Yeah.
And I wrote a script for him at one point, and he couldn't believe how bad it was. But my point was, this is the beginning. This is the start of a script. I'm showing it to you because then I want to, and obviously that's not how he works. He works seemingly, he moves very slowly, perfecting things as he goes, which is almost what I do as a novelist. But I thought as a scriptwriter, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I realized that he goes home and stays home and really works solid in a very introverted way. And also, his brother is his producer. He works a lot with the same actors. And his tennis was interesting because he really, you expect people to, like a serve is a form of choreography. It's the way you twist your body or the way you even look with your face. Nothing. He just hit the ball hard. And that's what I do. I'm not as good as he is. I'm not as strong. He's very, very strong shoulders and back. And I don't have that. And but I play tennis, and I always have, without any style of any sort, completely free of any obvious, nothing but brute force.
Yeah.
And hit the ball back. I don't even place the ball well, and that's a side of me that I keep very hidden, where I'm very determined, dull, slow, plodding person. Huh.
Is it to do with competitiveness?
Yeah, well, that's also the case. I mean, I play a lot with Hetty, my partner, and I really do want to win, and so does he.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, anyone watching it would just think these two guys are insane. Because also on the way home in the car, I would do a victory speech in Spanish. Otra vez ha ganado el irlandés, el campeón de este año, el irlandés. Ha ganado otra vez con un... And I would go on like that in the car, and he would just say, please stop.
So good. Oh, God. I think that's fantastic. It's so hard to actually sort of incorporate competitiveness. It's so loaded up with shame, certainly in England. And so I think any celebration of it is fantastic.
Even at my age, winning a tennis match.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. It's great. Shows you're live,
Recently, I've been... I had a pain in my hip, which I thought was arthritis, and I thought, here it comes. Henry James, when he was dying, said to someone, "Here it comes, the distinguished thing." We meant death.
Yeah.
But when I thought I had arthritis in my hip, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to get new hips, and generally all this old man stuff is coming towards me. But it wasn't that at all. It was just some nerve. But the physio said that his friend, Jim, was the trainer of the Columbia men's swimming team. And that if I wanted to go and get lessons with Jim, he was sure would do them. So at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, Jim would... I've never put my head under water. And really? Swimming is a big deal because we would go to the beach in the summer in Ireland, and of course the sea was so cold, and you just stand for hours. Someone told me that in all of the novels, there's a character standing in the sea, desperate not to have to get into it, and shivering, and then eventually getting the courage, like a sort of like a cormorant or something, just to get down into the water. And this is because it happened so much and it was such a big deal. You would live in dread of it. And but this man, Jim, is great. He's a good teacher. He shouts at me for an hour from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. And it's all about getting my head under the water. And he put me all sorts of exercises so that I would get used to keeping my head under the water. And he's very funny. In America, they use things whereas we don't use. He said, okay, I want your head absolutely flush with your butt cheeks. Get your butt cheeks. I said, what are you talking about? Don't my butt cheeks. I'm a 71-year-old man. It's the last thing I want to hear about on a Monday morning. My what? My butt cheeks. But putting your head underwater, he got me to go under the water. And I mean, no matter what I do with this, and I am lying on a couch, so I kind of really be brave enough to say this has to have something to do with the womb. And so you get under the water. So your head is under the water. Then what he wants you to do is clasp your own knees. Now, if you do that, you lose all power because you really are fetal.
Right.
You know, in other words, if you, and it says, hold on to you, don't let go of your knees. So you begin to sort of move in the water in ways you can't control, and you're underwater. And freeing yourself of that is a big moment where he says, okay, put your arms right out now. But for a while, you're sort of, you're just almost weightless for a while in the water, clasping your own knees. Just as I don't know if you clasp your own knees in the womb, but you must be in that sort of funny folded or curled position. And that's my Monday morning.
And do you sink when you clasp your knees?
Yeah.
God, that's so interesting. I'll definitely try that. I'm afraid of having my head under. I'm afraid of the vastness of underwater. It makes me really anxious.
But you can swim much faster if you keep your head under the water.
Yeah. And my earliest memory is being in the bath held with my mother holding my head under her hand. I must have been don't know why I can remember this early.
Oh, lovely.
And then I remember struggling, this panic, and then realizing there's nothing I could do. And then suddenly it was okay.
Wow.
So I suppose that the whole body kind of seems to flow together. But and you may not be part of the fashion world, but you seem to be connected to glamour, and maybe it's the glamour of being such a great writer. And I wondered, does it ever blind your judgment, which seems so astute?
I mean, one of the things I suppose is that with people who are very glamorous, you'd really like to be with them naked, rather than all their clothes.
Oh, gosh.
You have to think about that sometimes.
That's a very good thought.
But, I know. I worked briefly for Esquire. And all the guys there there was a lot of fashion. And I came up with the idea, there were meetings there, we meant to come up with ideas, that we should get all the poets of England, or as many as we could find, to model for Esquire.
Yeah.
And we discovered how beautiful all the poets were. We got Stephen Spender as the oldest one, but he looked marvellous. He really did. Andrew Motion, Michael Hoffman, Michael Donaghy, Don Patterson, all of them the men were so exquisite, and they looked so good in good clothes. I thought that was funny.
Such a good idea. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was married to a poet, and she said they're the most competitive, venal, egotistical group of creative beings that she'd ever encountered. I just thought, I just don't believe it. And then I read that book by John Berryman's ex-wife, first wife.
Oh, yeah, Poets in Their Youth.
Oh, God, it was wonderful. And they
Yeah.
are all completely wild and really kind of,
Yeah, you see, I think in Ireland even more so.
yeah.
Because we have no Wall Street and we've no aristocracy. And therefore, the poets have a great power in the country.
Yeah.
And you can probably change the country by changing the poem. I worked in Stanford with Evan Boland. She was my boss. And I'd never really met her in Ireland. She was slightly grand. Her father had been the ambassador, to the UN and to London. And her mother was a painter. And she was always beautifully dressed and her hair was always beautiful. But what she said was, I don't want to be the woman in the poem. I want to be the woman writing the poem. And almost just by saying that and then doing it, she did change things. She was part of that movement, feminism. But her poems changed things. Seamus Heaney's poems changed things.
Yeah.
And but the poets themselves were always fascinating to see. I suppose they all were aware of their position in a sort of pecking order.
Yeah.
Which really was put in place when they were very young. But I mean, I remember seeing John. Well, what's quite important actually are the author photographs. And there was a man called Jerry Bauer who would touch up the photograph. He would come to Dublin, take photographs, touch them up, so they look great on jackets. Other photographers wouldn't do that. But I remember really, really studying John Banville's photographs when he was young, his first books, just looking at his hair and his skin and his eyes, and really, really looking at those photographs, which I think probably readers do sometimes.
Yeah.
And then seeing him, And John Banville was always beautifully dressed, really beautifully dressed.
I mean, a poet in good clothes is about the most glamorous thing on earth.
There's nothing like, you're absolutely right. You think about it.
Because if you fancy someone and don't like something they're wearing, does it kill your attraction?
No, I love that. It's a sign of awkwardness.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more attractive for me than Irish country awkwardness. I was in a boarding school with 300 boys. They were all awkward. I still to this day find that more attractive than someone who's suave or, sophisticated or debonair. Someone wearing absolutely the wrong clothes.
But would the suave debonair put you off?
No. Yes, it would.
Right.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Totally.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do. Okay. I wouldn't know what to do. But yeah, someone who was completely awkward.
Yeah.
I should say that my shirt, I didn't say this, is the sleeves are rolled up. This is as a result of my friend Beatrice Rezzori, who's Italian. And she put a ban on me wearing short sleeve shirts.
Oh.
She said, no one in Italy wears short sleeve shirts. No one. Just if you have them, get rid of them. Don't ever wear them. Maybe on the beach, but don't wear them to the beach. Maybe you wear them just on the beach. Mm-hmm. And she lives in fear of Americans because they wear shorts. So she put a ban on shorts. Well, I wasn't wearing shorts, but then she put a ban on white shirts. Because she said to me one day, I was just there, I thought I looked great. I was wearing a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, as she had said I should, and black trousers. She said, well, you look like a waiter. You look like the waiter. People are going to actually call you over and order drinks from you. And so I'm going to stay with her. She's 100 years old. I'm going to stay with her in a few weeks, but I won't bring any white shirts because I just couldn't bear her going on more about it.
A pale blue shirt is I think it's my favorite thing on a man, apart from a khaki shirt and a denim shirt. But a pale blue shirt is lovely.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get some of those before I go. So I don't, people don't order a gin and tonic from me.
You can keep it.
It was really funny because I honestly thought I was fulfilling her dream.
Yeah, because there's the Reservoir Dogs.
But obviously she desperately needed me to stop. So she picked, people are going to order, have a glass of wine, a ginger ale, no ice, and could we have some olives, And I think that happened with, Alan Clark did that. He was on a plane with Margaret Thatcher and Geoffrey Howe. And Geoffrey Howe went into the bathroom to change because he was going to some dinner in London when they landed in the plane. But he changed into a full sort of, monkey suit. And when he came out, Alan Clark said, "Oh, that'll be gin and tonics all round, thank you." I thought that was a great story.
It's so good. I loved his diaries. God, they were good.
Yes, he said that Michael Heseltine was a sort of man who bought his own furniture. But I had no idea. Honestly, I didn't know what that meant. I thought, oh, he bought his own furniture. And then I realised, no, it meant that he didn't inherit his furniture.
Gosh, did he come up with that? Because I thought that was a sort of night. I don't know where I thought I...
Well, he used it about Michael Heseltine.
Yeah.
I thought it was his, but it could be somebody else's. The Italian thing is that they never make a mistake. If I try and wear shoes with no socks, my ankle, that part of me down there looks so white and strange. But if an Italian does it, it looks perfect.
But they have such strange codes that they wear lemon-coloured V-neck cashmere sweaters or pale pink, and they look so sort of namby-pamby. But the short-sleeve shirt seems to be coming back into fashion for English men, and it's quite sexy actually now.
Is it?
I've come round to it after it being the sort of worst thing, like someone's really uncool
I associated
dad.
with shame, with that shame of being in Beatrice's house, having no other shirts except the short sleeves, and her saying, no. So I don't think I'll bring them. I don't think I'll start wearing them again.
Because I read I don't know where I read this, that you'd said that you'd met some people who were experts in cocaine. I love the way you termed it, and that as you weren't a fan, they recommended you try a double espresso with Coca-Cola poured on top, and that you tried this and it really set you on fire teaching your
that was Almodovar, actually.
No.
He told me that this thing really worked. And, I think he was talking about actors. And that if you gave it to an actress and then turned on the camera, I think that's what happened. And so I was going, just after I saw him at that time, I was going to teach at the New School.
Yeah.
It was a 3-hour seminar. And I would do it right before a double espresso, and you let it cool. You put sugar into it, let it cool. And then you throw in a full bubbly Coca-Cola and drink it all down like medicine.
Wow.
And it took about an hour, but on fire. I became this sort of teacher who couldn't stop. And it was really true that there was a complaint from the porters because they would close up the school at 10. I would still be in full flight at 10. And I would tell them, just go away for a while and we'll come back. And poor students had to listen to this.
Oh, I'm dying to try it.
It's really great. And it's not illegal. You don't feel that you're somehow compromising with so many people with your drug habit.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than cocaine.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I know, it's really great.
Because in a New Yorker interview, it said your boyfriend Hedy does all the cooking and drives you and makes the bed, and that you'd never knowingly made a bed. And
yes, I had to explain to the interviewer what that meant. I'd never knowingly made a bed, meaning that perhaps they got made in some funny way without me intending to make them. But that's now changed since I said that, and since it appeared, I now try always to make the bed. So if I pass the bed and it's not made, I make a big, big effort. I feel like a nurse in a hospital. And I try and get the sheets all straight and the duvet and do all this stuff. It still looks wrong. Things are always hanging down awkwardly, asymmetrically. But I do that as a sign that I'm making an effort. But I can't cook or I can't do anything like that.
My grandmother, my Irish grandmother, she had a bed and breakfast, and she taught me how to make beds, and I found it unbelievably. I still do it. I don't just make the bed; I make the bed. It's like part of a spiritual ritual.
I was in my editor's house in New York, and I went into all her rooms just to look at them. just out of
Really?
nosiness. And all the beds were made. And I said to her, do you make them in the morning? She said, well, do you not? And I said, no. And then I tried to do that for a while in New York, make my own bed in the morning. So my bedroom looks like it's, ready for use. But I've stopped doing it. And I got it.
I find it very peaceful. It's a sort of way of not having a distraction. It's, do you have any stabilizing rituals?
None. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just find it hard to get out of bed, and then I do. I wash myself in the morning. Do you do that?
Yeah, I have a kind of thing that I do, a bit like a prisoner.
Yeah.
I do certain things and then I'm ready.
Yeah.
Because was it your psychiatrist who said to you, you have the ability to really bounce back? And you were talking.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. Good in that he was sometimes like, there's nothing wrong with you. Go, like let's talk about something else. But he said, the thing about you is you bounce back.
Yeah.
And it was such a liberating thing to say to me.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
And it sounded true when he said it. And I said, oh, do I? And well, obviously I do. And that's a great gift, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because people say that you can go through all sorts of kind of extreme experiences, but it's all in how your resilience and how you come back from it. And I think you were talking about the second time you didn't win the Booker Prize, and our mutual friend Rachel Kushner, who also didn't win the Booker Prize for the second time, and she was telling me that Wolfgang Tillman said to her, well, it is better to win. And I mean, instead of sort of trying to make these packages of why you shouldn't, but how's your morale barometer around not winning?
Oh, it really is designed, I think, to be a theatre of cruelty. And just the length of the dinner and the length of the speeches and the fact that, no matter who you are, you think you're going to win. Briefly, you have a thought. And people have speeches ready and then some other name is announced. And especially the second time, I think, where I wrote a novel called The Master.
Yeah,
and
wonderful.
I thought that could win, but it didn't. And there was I stayed on in London, really where I thought no one, in some funny hotel, no one in the world knows where I am. And that was a funny feeling of just, I was meant to go back to Dublin and didn't. I don't know, but I just stayed on and just basically just stayed in bed. And then I was just fine. Just got over it in a few days, but it stays with you. It's a sort of public humiliation is too strong. I mean, I think if you were going to be executed, it would be much worse. Publicly, like they used to do. But it has some of the elements of that.
It does. It's a very strangely organized thing. It's sort of designed to demote you in some way.
Yeah, there was one year where I think it was the year of the Master, where they were always inviting posh lords to the dinner who had nothing to do with literature. And one of the lords they invited was David Trimble, who was the leader of the Ulster Unionist Party. And somebody thought that since we were both Irish, and since we both liked Wagner, we should meet each other. And he looked at me with a sort of horror. And someone said, well, of course, you'll be rooting for him since he's Irish. And David Trimble said in a very rude way, no, I won't. I haven't read his book. I don't know anything about him. God. And I thought, like, is this what I've come over? Like, is this what I set out? Is this what I set out from Dublin, my monkey suit? Is this why I put, that's why I put deodorant on, so I could have to be insulted by David Trimble.
It's really lowering, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was funny. Actually, I have to say, it is all funny in retrospect. And the fact that you're so susceptible to becoming famous is shocking and shameful. And it is all your own fault. And I'm sure the judges and the people who give them money and all mean well by wanting to have a prize for literature. And the fact that, the first year I was up for it, J.M. could say, who seems like the most sensible and talented person, just didn't turn up.
No.
And he won, of course. But he didn't have to sit there. And it would have been lovely to have met him, but he just didn't bother turning up.
That's classy, isn't it?
Yeah, really classy. He's such a classy fellow. Then he went on to win the Nobel Prize. Really. I think he did turn up, but not for the shortlisting, but for the big dinner.
Yeah. I still think it's good to want to win. It's better than not.
Yes, the art of losing isn't hard to master.
Yeah. Because you talked about writing, and I quote, with no shimmering tones, but with shimmering feelings. And you wrote about going through cancer treatment quite graphically, and it was such an and there's no sentimentality or stoicism, and it was such an incredible moment reading about when you start to get your appetite back. And was there ever any question about you not writing about this experience?
I mean, the doctors, the oncologist said to me at the very first meeting, we haven't lost anyone to this yet, meaning testicular cancer.
Yeah.
And he never wavered in that.
Yeah.
So I always presumed that he was going to cure me. And there's a lovely moment where something went wrong with my mouth, and they were all looking at it. And one nurse said to another nurse, no, we're not stopping. We can't reduce the treatment because this is curative. And hearing her saying that, thinking I wasn't listening. So that was all great. So it wasn't really so bad. But I had no intention of writing about it. I hate those pieces. God, how I battled cancer, came out the other side. It's sort of insulting to people who didn't survive. But then I got a first sentence. I was back in LA. I was with Hetty, and I'd gone back to Colombia to teach. And I hadn't told anyone because I was on sabbatical when I had cancer. I didn't tell anyone in Colombia, and I didn't tell any. And I was back at spring break, and I was back in LA, and I just got a sentence. It all started with my balls. And once that sentence came, I was away.
Yeah.
It's a funny idea that a sentence leads you to the whole thing. And so I did write about it then. And the London Review of Books was sweet enough to publish it.
Oh, it's a brilliant, I mean, it's a completely amazing piece. And also I think, well, obviously it's amazing to read. There's a certain point when you're suffering so much and you don't talk about that. Your writing is so kind of distilled. And if I ever have cancer, I know if I feel like that, it's possible to come out the other side. So it was magnificent.
Yeah, it's a question of bouncing back,
Yeah. I think Martin Amis writes well about clothes. He doesn't say much about them, but in one of his novels he says, a girl's wearing cool trousers, which I thought was so evocative. And I wondered who you thought writes well about clothes.
Oh, Martin Amis always had a lovely haircut. And he was very beautiful.
Yeah.
And he had, he did wear bell bottoms.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever wore bell bottoms. Imagine wearing bell bottoms. But I'm trying to think about, I suppose someone like Philip Roth always looked great. He was tall. You see, I think if you're tall, that's what someone said about Philip Larkin. He shouldn't have moaned so much about his looks because he was tall. I think being tall would be great.
You're tall.
No, I'm not. I'm small and I'm bald.
You seem
Stop it.
tall.
Give it up. But I mean, I tell you who was beautiful. Paul Auster was beautiful.
Oh,
and his wife, Siri, who's now his widow. Both of them were astonishing looking. You see them in photographs, but in real life, they were also just amazing looking. Yeah, the two of those were so great. I was in Brazil with them.
Really?
Yeah. I traveled with them, and I couldn't stop looking at them. Her, she has the most beautiful eyes. You could spend the day looking into her eyes.
Who do you think writes well about clothes?
Oh, I don't know.
Does Henry James write well about clothes? I get a sense of how someone's looking, just thinking about.
Yeah. You see, nobody really wrote about men in clothes, did they? I don't think anyone did. I'm much more interested in the sort of awkwardness of someone wearing the completely wrong shoes.
Oh, yes.
I was in Italy, one of those Beatrice Ressori events, and Inga Feltrinelli, who at the time was controlling the whole Feltrinelli business of publishing and bookstores, was talking about a rule in Italy. There are so many rules. One was that you didn't ever bring your bodyguards into the room. Your bodyguards, the word for bodyguard in Italian is gorilla.
Really?
And you left your gorilla outside. And someone, very naff, broke all the rules by bringing his, just to show off, he brought his gorilla, his bodyguards, into the room. He was a minister in one of the Berlusconi governments. And she said, but how did you know that they were his gorilla? Rather than maybe his friends. And she said, I looked at their shoes.
Oh, that's so...
And of course, I immediately looked at my own shoes. And my own shoes looked very gorilla to me. I mean, they didn't look like Italian shoes. So I'm sort of more interested in that idea of someone who's completely wearing but it's that Italian idea that they would know a foreigner who's trying to be Italian because you get one thing so wrong. And it wouldn't just be socks. It could just be something so small. But I don't know any novelist who goes on about this. But I must go on about it more, about the wrong, just the character, the wrong thing.
Oh, it's always so interesting.
I mean, that's why when I was talking about the clothes at the beginning, there's clothes I saw on other people, but they're completely wrong on me, I'm sure, completely wrong.
But it's when you were talking about seeing those clothes on the other people and how clothes can represent intelligence. So you must have responded to something.
Anne Carson looks tremendous. Like you, she often wears a tie. I think if I was a girl, I'd wear a tie.
Yeah, I'm wearing a tie.
No,
I love a tie.
You look so great in a tie.
I always wanted a tie when I was at school. They didn't have a school uniform, so I started now. It's such fun. Well, thank you so much, Colm Toíbín, for being on Fashion Neurosis. This is a dream come true.
Oh, God, I'm the most neurotic person about clothes. I'm just always in the wrong clothes.
You're not, absolutely, you're not.
I completely am.
You are not.
I am.
I love everything you're wearing.
If anyone's listening, just send me clothes, please. Just send me something nice.
There's nothing more fun than going shopping with somebody. I love that, yeah.
That's absolutely true.
Well, if you ever need a shopper, I'm on standby.
Oh, I would be really on for that.
I'd love that.
Thank you very much.